Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Bugbears and Brews. My name's Brian, and tonight we're talking about the first session of our 5th edition game of Adventures in Middle-earth, which is a third-party product from Cubicle 7 that kind of converts the Lord of the Rings setting into 5th edition rules. This is going to be a long stint into it. We're going to have one more session, possibly two, and then we're going to jump back into 5th edition with Tomb of Annihilation, which I actually picked up the book the other day here. So to start off with, I gave the players the options. I had the book. There's a campaign, or not a campaign. There is a bunch of pre-mades out there. I say bunch. There's 6 pre-mades out there on the web that you can grab. I went ahead and downloaded all those, even though they're in the PDF as well. And I printed those out, and I told my players, hey, you can use these pre-mades, or you can go ahead and create your own characters and start at level 2. So if you use the pre-mades, you start at level 1. If you made your own character, you start at level 2. And I think everybody but one person used a fresh character. They took the time and did the investment and leveled up to level 2. The reason I did that is I wanted to make sure that people kind of understood the in and outs of their character, because there are some differences in there, especially like there's a new tradition role, riddle, and 1 or 2 other different skills. And then while some of the classes are pretty easy transfer over, things like the Warden and Wanderer and the Scholar play pretty differently than anything that's in D&D. So the party makeup, a couple people made names, but they didn't really stick with me, minus Don was Joffer. Yeah, Joffer. We had 2 Dwarf Slayers, an Elf Scholar, a Human Warden, and a Human Wanderer. And so that made up the party. Jose couldn't make it. He should be making it for next week, though, so we'll probably have a 6-person next week. And we start out, I'm running right now the intro campaign, adventure, whatever you want to call it, from the Wilderland campaign setting there. It's a series of 6 or 7, 6, I think. Adventures that take characters from level 1, 2 area up to like the level 6 or so. And it started off with the characters walking around, hanging out by Long Lake, just kind of searching through debris, see if anything good washed up. As far as timeline, this is like 5 years after the Battle of the 5 Armies there. So, so people are just kind of looking around, trying to find some debris, and then a young boy walks up and says, hey, we're getting, my dad's getting jumped, come help us out. You guys go run and help him out, or go run up to the scene there. There's 3 guys surrounding this elderly gentleman, guys trying to hold him off with a stick, and because I believe it was Don, playing Joffer, was from an area that was nearby there, he recognized some of these guys here, and kind of spun a little backstory there. But in the end, you guys ended up helping this guy out. And that's kind of where we hit our first issue, is most of the time my players like to play Shades of Grey. And in Adventures in Middle-earth, players are typically meant to be on the good side. So, not that my players don't normally play good characters, but they tend to be a little bit more Shades of Grey thing here. So, there was a little bit of, I don't want to say animosity, but a little bit of like, ha ha ha, I'm the good guy type going on there. But eventually the players did give in, and we're okay with it. And I think it turned out a little bit better than what I initially thought it was going into. And from there, after saving him, Beldor was the father, and then Belgo was the son. They hired you guys on to go ahead and be their guards through Mirkwood. The guys that were attacking them were actually their old guards, and so they don't have the best decisions, but they said, you know what, let's go ahead and we'll pay you guys double what we're going to pay the other guys. Just take us through Mirkwood. It won't be too long. We already have elves escorting us a decent way through, so come help us out. From there, the next thing that kind of seemed a little weird to me, especially for my group, was your blind acceptance of the, like, here's the plot hook. And I get it, because I told you guys ahead of time, like, this is what we're doing. I, just kind of go along with it, and I want to test it out. But it's just really weird for, like, you guys who always kind of kick any plot hook to the curb to go along happily with it. You know, I'm not complaining. It was just a really weird change of pace. From there, you guys met the elves, went into the elf kingdom, safe haven type deal. I forget the name of it. And from there, we had our first, what's it called? Audience. Yeah, first audience with a upper elf, and we played around with the tradition rules. And at first, I was kind of a little hesitant about the idea of tradition rules, but seeing them play out, I really like the way they work, and they kind of remind me of the AD&D reaction roles to encounters. You know, where you could possibly run into like an AD&D when you rolled up on an encounter, you'd roll the reaction, and depending on what it was, even some monstrosity type deals, as long as they were intelligent, could wind up actually being pretty good there. Of course, you could do that all, you know, it's just the mechanic behind it, and it worked out pretty well. And because of a really great tradition roll, you guys were able to gather some information. And then we actually got to skip our first embarkation roll. So one of the things that really had me excited for doing this Adventures in Middle-earth conversion is that the travel rules seem to be really well defined, and I like that. Because I think in like normal 5th edition, travel seems to be the least defined, least thought about, least, you know, run through piece of the pillars there. And so with that, having these nice defined rules, and, you know, here's the rules and what all can happen, and here's what each of these rules do, and here's how people can work these rules, it all worked out really nicely. But you guys start off with the best embarkation roll, which actually led to 3 great random encounter rolls. So good that realistically we could get through the rest of this campaign without really much of an issue, or the rest of this little 2-shot thing, without you guys really hitting anything. For the sake of testing out the system, I'm going to throw in another, you know, kind of issue-y type encounter that we'll run into, whether it'll be like a skill check type deal or combat, who knows. So I have to think about that. But that set aside, you guys setting off into Mirkwood proper with the father and son, 4 ponies, and the wagon, and you guys heading off. You then, first encounter, or first issue was, you guys came to this murky area, and Mark, playing the scholar, pointed out, hey, at that point, I think he was the lookout, or no, he was the scout. He was functioning as the scout for the group. Point out that, hey, there's all sorts of pitfalls here. Don't walk anywhere. Keep on the path. So you guys were able to navigate that around without any issue, even able to get the wagon around without issue. Eventually, though, you guys came to this big open-air elven feast hall, and you guys settled down there for the night, and everybody was happy and relaxing. However, Baldor drank from the water there, and that's one of the things that the elves told you not to do, was don't drink from the stream. And while this stream seemed okay during the day, there's actually some sort of magical stuff that goes on at night, so that the water behaves differently during the day than it does at night. And Baldor just flipped out and started running off into the woods. You guys woke up, eventually gave chase to him. Sadly, it took you guys several hours to find him. When you did find him, he was eventually, you found him up in a cocoon, up in a desolate tower. From there, we went on a rescue mission to try to get him. You sent 2 people on the outside of the tower climbing up, and then 3 people going on the inside. Even though you guys saw spiders, you figure between the split group, if there are spiders, you might be able to distract them a little bit one way or another, and the other group might be able to rescue them. And combat, I think, went pretty easily. I rolled pretty poorly, but I mean, this is like a low entry combat, so I'd have to roll pretty high to hit most of you guys. But there was some fun things that happened there. What was it? Yeah, Lee. Lee was playing one of the Slayers, which is like a barbarian. He was up one of the ones that climbed the tower wall, and when he climbed over and saw that the spiders were attacking the party that was inside the tower, he jumped down and absolutely pummeled a spider that was below him, and then wound up actually going into into the webbing and wound up getting caught in the webbing. So the one spider, I don't remember it was Lee that got caught in the webbing, but I know he splashed through into it, and then no, Lee wasn't a Slayer. Who the hell was? I'm getting names mixed up. I apologize. I don't remember who the hell jumped out. I thought it was Lee though. No, it wasn't Lee. It was Tim. Right? I don't know. Anyway, somebody jumped down into the spider, absolutely smashed it, wound up getting caught in the webbing, and then that's when somebody, I think this was Lee, then tried to grab a grappling hook, or Tim, forget, I don't remember who did what. I apologize. Somebody then tried to get the person out of the web with the grappling hook, got the grappling hook stuff, and then from there, Anthony, I do remember this, Anthony, ran and jumped and actually grabbed the guy by the waist and pulled him down from the spider web. You guys were able to get Beldor out without issue. However, you guys also lit the tower on fire. As the tower's going up, Mark playing the Scholar, I messed around a little bit with some of their shadow corruption type deal. I forget the proper term. I think it's like shadow corruption or something like that. It's things that their characters tend to want, and Mark playing the Scholar wants knowledge. And so he, seeing the webbing burn away, he saw this emblem, and he went ahead to try to move the emblem and pulled it aside, and it was actually a hidden compartment. And from there, so this whole time I gave him checks on whether, trying to pass his corruption checks, because there's a mechanic here that every so often, or every time you're drawn towards one of these shadow things, you have to roll your corruption check to see if the shadow actually affects you or not. And eventually the shadow can build up, and your character can eventually retire. Nothing, because of this shadow buildup. I know I'm not really describing it well, but this isn't to go over the rules. I might do a little, basic of the rules thing at some other point there. But in the end there, you guys escaped the spiders, returned to the feast hall, found out that Beldor actually lost his memory, and he thought this was back during when Smaug was attacking the town that he lived in, and so he ran away trying to save his wife. His wife sadly died in the fire way back when, but him and Belgo had a big kind of rift now because he doesn't recognize Belgo, and they're trying to repair their relationship there. Let's see here. Yeah, I think you guys liked it a lot better than you went into thinking it. It was really interesting to see the way you guys solved some things having no magic whatsoever. I really like the idea of a low magic setting, high fantasy, which is why this really draws me. Plus, I'm a big Tolkien nut, so that as well helps. Another reason why I want to do it. I'm really looking for the next session. I don't think we'll actually need a third session. We might just do one for the sake of the other table wrapping up, because sadly we're trading Don for a character or player at the other table, just to kind of change up players for the next campaign. Two guys really want to play together, and then I was going to take Sean back from James there. So I know this was a really wonky type of recap, and I apologize about that, but not having player or character names, didn't think it'd be that big of a deal, but I guess it sticks out in my mind a little bit more, thinking of character names versus thinking of, the players who did the action there. So, sorry about that. Can't wait to see you guys next Wednesday, though, and play more of this. Like I said, I don't think it's going to be much of an issue. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So we dealt with some of the shadow aspects, so I think everybody, for the most part, has at least 1 point of shadow. I think Mark has 3. And we're going to start to see one of the mechanics that we're going to get into is how to cure that shadow. So it's going to be nice to mess around with that mechanic there a little bit. So talk to you later, guys. Bye.